enough of that. Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to this stream with, I want to call it a secondary channel, which I'm gonna call Any Bit Fever Dream. And usually, if you've known me from social media, you've seen me like do mostly One Bit Fever Dreams, a channel dedicated to everything black and white Macintoshes. But I don't want to feel constrained, so I'm gonna like branch out this summer and do stuff about other kinds of computers from back in the day. So let's take a second to acknowledge the people in the chat. We have Garth Beagle, who seems to be a fan of Wing Commander 2, and Big Bad Biologist, Big Bad Bench, the 6B man. Howdy. Yeah, so I'm still gonna do mostly Macintosh videos, but we'll see how it goes for that other stuff. And I've not like hidden the fact that I'm a huge PC gaming fan, especially from the MS-DOS era, and this is why I'm gonna install today Wing Commander 2. Let's try this camera here. So I have a disease, and this disease is buying big box PC games from eBay and Facebook Marketplace. And it's a disease because the prices are not super hot right now. I should have had this disease like 10 years ago. It would have been a lot less expensive, but I make exceptions for some very special titles for which I have very fond memories, such as Wing Commander 2 here. So it takes me back to the time where when I had a 386 and I was starved for computer power back then, but it was still okay. I could play a lot of games back then. So yeah, other people have regrets in the chat. Seems so. So let me like show you my collection of big box games from my free roaming camera. Oops. So I set up a couple of shelves here. So yeah, there's a corner for my Mac games here, like games from ICOM Simulation, Deja Vu, Ishido, Uninvited, Tetris, Super Studio Session, Beyond Dark Castle, and when we get to the Ultima boxes, that's where the PC section starts. So very fond memories of Origin games and RPGs here. So yeah, like Ultima 7 was the first big box game of that series that I owned, and we lent it to some family friends and we never got it back, but I bought it in eBay a few months ago. Well, a year ago by now. And then we have some sweet RPG action from the era before 3DFX. King's Quest V, Windows 3.1 sealed, and some random stuff. And here is my mountain of meaty devices, complete with Roland speakers. I have a Gravis gamepad here. A few other titles for PC, which are more modern, like end of 90s here, Half-Life. And my biggest regret of all time, Master of Orion 3, which is the worst game ever. And a few other titles from the double O's, the knots. And there's a few titles hidden back there, but they're less important for me. And special shout out to Mackie from the Macintosh Librarian and Apple IIe, or should I say 2e. Yeah, and check out my 3D printed Mac here. Very professional. All right. So, what do we get in the box? So let's check that out. So part of the experience was having lots of goodies in these big boxes. So main event is these lovely 7 identity discs, which like part of this stream, part of the goal of the stream is to make you suffer through the installation. But I'm not that cruel, so I'm gonna like get some help. I'll explain what I mean later. So one thing that was really special back then from Origin is that their games were really packed. They came in a lot of discs and they were compressed. So they saved cost on disc manufacturing and whatnot. So when you install the game, they had to uncompress them after installation. And on the 386, it took ages. I, if I remember correctly, it took like 45 minutes to an hour after the files were copied, which took kind of a lot of time by itself. But the decompression was like something you would remember all your life. Everyone that played back then remembers it, and not for good reasons. So yeah, and a thing of concern when you get big buck PC games in 2023 or nowadays, since the last few years, is that these discs go bad. So I don't expect anything, like I don't expect them to work, and I was kind of right. And before starting the stream, I kind of tested things out, of course. And just displaying the files, well, disc 1 was bad. It couldn't read the files in it. Disc 6 was bad. Disc 7 was bad. And one special thing is that the disc 1 was so bad that the sound that the disc drive makes is really, really ugly. And it made me worried that I was destroying my disc drive. But no, it chugged along and it was fine. So these 4 discs, which is the majority of the diskettes, they were good. They displayed the files. But when I actually made a test run to install it before this stream, they were 100% bad. Like if there's one corrupted file at any point in the installation, and you pray that it's not during disk 6 or 7, the whole thing shuts down and you have to start over again. So I went to archive.org and made myself some brand new copies. I've tried the disc twice on 2 of my machines. It worked both times. Hopefully this works again here now. So let's start that up. I'm gonna show you the content of the box while this is copying, and this is the PC I'm gonna use. I could use like my 486 here, which is a machine that's slightly too fast for Wing Commander. The Wing Commander 1 and 2 are very speed sensitive, and we have to watch out for like level 1 and level 2 cache. It has to be disabled because it will run too fast if it's enabled. And a 486 DX2 66 megahertz is kind of too fast. You have to use some special tools to slow it down, but mostly disable L1 and L2 cache. So I've tried it out. It's sort of okay. I didn't dig out my CPU limiters to slow it down to like the ideal speed would be 33 megahertz. So you have to, like, every cycle has to be wasted from a special tool. But I'm gonna install it, like, and you'll understand why I'm doing that. Installing it on a WC, which is the ideal setup, like, to not make you suffer through the full and authentic pain of installing Wing Commander. What is a WC? Well, in case you don't know, a WC was created 2 years ago now. Let me find the correct window. So you can find the design on PCBWay. I'm not affiliated with PCBWay at all. I'm just saying where you can find the information. And it's from a design from Andrew Tate, better known as the Rastery on YouTube. He has a channel. It's hilarious. You have to watch him. And he designed this like system on module special computer, which takes basically a kind of machine, a kind of module that runs native x86 code. So for all intents and purposes, it can be a Pentium 233 megahertz equivalent. So like the beginning of the Pentium 2 class or something like that. So this is the design is open. You can print out your PCB. You can order your parts, and you have to order the system on module from ICOP. So I did all of that 2 years ago. I followed this design. He stayed in communication with me, and today I'm very happy to announce that it still works very strongly. And this is my main DOS gaming machine, I would say. So it's this silver box here. It's loaded up with a lot of connections. And at a later date, I'm gonna do a video to present it and do a fuller overview of it. So let's start it up. It's just 5 volts. Just using your standard phone charger. And let's see. So yeah, BIOS from 2010. And what's special about it is that it can take one USB device, and it's actually where I'll plug my USB floppy. The box is too small to carry a disk drive, but you can plug in a USB floppy drive, no problem. So let's check that out. So I fully realize that this secondary channel is very obscure. It's not really known. So I'm gonna do a highlights video to cut out the unnecessary chaff and just go straight to the topic at hand. And it's no worry of mine. So let's try the first disk. So I have a floppy cam. You can see me insert the disk in real time right there. All right, so we're watching for horrible sounds. I hope we won't get any. So right now the WC is running with all the cache, level 1, level 2 cache, of course, because I don't want to slow it down during installation. But when it'll be time to run the game, that's when I'll have to disable it. So let's pick. So yeah, there was the option to save space and keep the files compressed, but that meant that you every time you launched a game, it took ages to launch a game. So I don't have space constraints. I have 4 drives, virtual drives of 2 gigabytes each. So it's I'm gonna save time. So we'll do the uncompression step after copying. VGA graphics. So I have the privilege of owning a hardware Roland MT32. You might have seen it before. Let's check that out right here. So it's already open and ready to go. So I'm gonna pick that. And here, normally I'd install the digitized speech, which is pretty cool, but it's not the best voice acting ever and doesn't really carry well in a stream, I think. So it's easier to read, especially since I'm mixing other sounds with the stream. So I'm gonna decline to install the digitized voices. And off we go. So yeah, 7 tests to go. We're gonna really hope that it works all the way through. It should, because it worked twice like yesterday. But I've seen weirder things go bad. So while it is copying, I'm gonna switch over to this. and check out the content of the box. So one thing that the current generation is gonna miss is, well, they can find it another way, I suppose, but just going to a physical store and browsing the boxes for a long time and deciding, like taking an age and a half to decide where your hard-earned money would go towards, like which game. You didn't really have readily available information on game reviews and whatnot. Um, there were other ways. There were shareware versions oftentimes, but you relied mostly on boxes to you know to be convinced to buy a certain game. So Origin was really well known for creating really enticing boxes. Um, so what else was there? There was this Jones fighting spacecraft. This is kind of a brochure telling you about like the different ships in the game in Wing Commander 2. And in case you didn't know, Wing Commander 2 is a flight sim, science fiction based, and it's in the future. You're fighting off the Kilrathi, which is a cat-like or a lion-like species that hate humanity. And here are the various ships with their stats. Did you really use those stats to, become better at the game? Maybe if you you were really serious about exploring the possibilities of the game, and big ships and stations you have to blow up or defend, depending, and explaining all the weapons. A lot of text to read. A standard play manual. It's not the best from Origin. They made better stuff before, maybe. So this game is from '92. I've seen better manuals with color before and after that period. It was a hit and miss, but mostly it back in those days. All right, let me acknowledge the chat. I feel fortunate that I've not contracted the disease. Yeah, I feel you. Uninvited box, man. These comments are from so long ago. Hey Trina, what's up? Thanks for joining in. Going from Apple IIc to 386 SX certainly helped to lessen the impact of that PC's slowness. Oh yeah. I've got a copy of System 7.5.3 on floppies. I should do video and showing an install of it. Yeah. Is your channel about watching paint dry? The one thing that this generation won't miss out on is having some of the ploppies failing during install. Yeah, definitely. But you can get do like me and get them back. The image, the pristine preserved image from archive.org, and we hope that this website doesn't go down. They're the original Khajiit, and they have wares. Is that a what is it from the Daggerfall or something series, or Skyrim or something? Yeah, I barely remember. All right, hey, it seems that we have reached disc 2. Excellent. So far, so good. So they should be in order. Yeah, so let's check out the manual a bit more. So yeah, this thing. Play manual. Quick start. How to install your first mission. Gives you the commands you should know when you play. Screenshot. More information about installing, because let's face it, it's Origin. You have to drill down inside your config sys and auto exec bat for sure. The game requires expanded memory, so if you were not aware of that kind of memory for DOS, well, you got a wake-up call with this game for sure. and you can load up like tons of extraneous utilities for DOS because you would run out of RAM and it would not run your game. So yeah, no internet to save you. You have to go to the library and read about DOS configuring, or have a friend that already knows this stuff. But that information was spread around because a lot of people were very interested in playing DOS games. And here we have a pamphlet for, oh yeah, product placement. Of course, joysticks. The Mac 1, Mac 1 Plus, Mac 2, Mac 3, Flight Stick Pro, and Virtual Pilot. I think my father had a flight stick for Mac, like during the early PowerPC era, because he's always been trying to find the best flight simulator all his life. So he definitely went with this one at some point. But I didn't own these for PC. I just played with a mouse back then on my 386 Essex. So we're on to disc 3. And if a disk ever fails, if it should happen, it's no biggie. I have the image file and I can just create another one. Oops, wrong keyboard. All right, so, oops. Of course, open letter to Origin customers. When you were a kid, you never read those letters ever. They just came in the way of your fun. But you would check out the other games in their catalog for sure. Strategy guides. Like, they were savvy business people, like from Origin. They sold you the base game, and they always add like extra mission packs. Wing Commander 1, which I played after Wing Commander 2, had 2 mission packs. I think they sold a speech pack separately as well. And if I remember correctly, back then I started out with an ad lib, and I couldn't have like the sound effects at all. I just had the music, and they had drop-in replacement that sounded really bad. They sounded like FM synth instruments for explosions and firing and whatnot. And my friends had sound blasters, so I was really jealous. And at some point, I upgraded to a sound blaster, 16-bit. But yeah, the speech back was definitely aimed for Sound Blaster users because they were sound effects. And yeah, here you go, the secret missions. Sorry if the camera is really bad because it was bought in 2008. it's getting vintage by itself. But it's oh no, that's my that's my phone actually. No, the floppy cam is from 2008, and the M1 cam as well. So yeah, disc finish with disc 3. Let's go this one. So I kind of took a risk because the floppy drive is connected to the WC. So this is normally a drive that I use with my modern PC, and it's fine. It's gonna get its power from the USB port. But here I'm kind of like plugging it in the USB, the lone USB port of my WC, and I've like soldered this board myself inside this silver case, and I know for a fact that I had trouble like with the auto triggering fuse, the self how do you call it, the self resettable fuse, and I had trouble when I picked a 1 amp version, and like it would self reboot like continuously some of the times, not all the times. So at some point, I think I removed it and just put in a solder bridge and just forget about the fuse. Like I know that fuses are important, but in this case, like it's not gonna draw a catastrophic amount of current, and it's fine. And I removed it after months of usage, so I knew there were no critical problems. So yeah. Oh, I'm gonna change the disk while I'm gonna show you something else. Let's just start that one. Yeah, so let's go here and here. Yeah, I can show a few photos when I was assembling the WC. So this is the board that I picked inside. I picked the red color myself. I think had those made from PCBWay. It was my first time ordering a PCB, and I hoped I would just fire and forget and send like the Gerber files, but had some back and forth and had to answer questions I didn't know the answer for from the people at PCBWay. So yeah, the hardest part was soldering this SMT sound chip, which has I think 100 pins or something like that. It took a few tries, but I got the hang of it at some point. But it forced me to buy a hot air gun because I had to repair my mistakes. But it's fine. I never overheated any chips, despite thinking I had. So there's the fuse. F1 is down on the bottom left. So I think it's removed right now. So my soldering job was not the best, but it was my first time soldering SMT like any packages, so you're not supposed to use that much solder, but it's fine. It holds up. And this is what it looks like from the front. You have a game port, which can also pass through MIDI. Just gonna change the disk while, oops. So we're on disk 6. Alright, so yeah, the game port uses pin 12 to send MIDI data. So if you want to both use a joystick and MIDI, you can even either find like scour the internet and find split cable, or do your own. It's pretty easy. This is the kind of stuff detail I'd show in another video. So this is the PS2 port. If you want to use a mouse, you have to use those Y cables that came with laptops back in the day, back in the late 90s, which is what I have. I think I got it from AliExpress. And the markings are reversed, so I have to plug the keyboard and the mouse end of the cable, and the vice versa. So micro SD card for storage. If you're using DOS, you're limited to 8 gigabytes, but like 4 drives of 2 gigabytes. They have to be separated because your max partition is 2 gigabytes. And then, yeah, this is from a partial shot from inside. Blue LED means it's powered. It's a good sign. And this is the back. A lot of ports. It's all crammed together. So micro USB power. The USB device that you can bring in. I've successfully used it with a keyboard, with a optical mouse, no problem. And you don't need any special drivers for this. So yeah, optical mice in DOS, no problem at all. As well as USB keyboards, no trouble. I wouldn't like put a USB hub and and double down on the number of devices. Bad idea, because at some point you're gonna maybe overheat a part of your board. Ethernet port, which is wild. I never had a network card back in the day. I just had a modem on my PC in the early 90s in my 386. VGA output is pretty standard. So in order to capture what's going on, I have to use a converter from VGA to HDMI, which I can show here. It's this black chain of dongles, and it could also intercept the audio, which you see the little cable, audio cable here. So you can intercept that and send it over to HDMI with the video. but I'm not doing this. I have another audio cable at the top here, and it's being sent to my. Don't know if I can show it, but there's a mixer back there, a passive mixer. So all the, all the ports are used. Um, I can mix in my WC sound, of course, which is the Sound Blaster kind of, and I can mix the MT32 here, or the Roland Sound Canvas, or the Kawai. One of the three is not plugged in at the moment, and yeah, they are both mixed into a single output, which can go to my speakers, or in this case, right now, it's being piped in my modern PC, so I can capture it and send it back to the stream. So what else? What else? What else? Oops. Yeah. So here's a cleaner setup, which you can see more like if you had a regular joystick, the footprint of the base of the joystick is bigger than a Wii C. So this is running like a usual setup here with the keyboard. This is the output. This is a special card that plugs in the. You can see my splitter cable here that plugs in the game port. It goes to a thingy, a little PCB that sends out MIDI data, but there's also the other end of the Y split that goes to a regular joystick, which is you can see right here on the left. I also have my disk drive on the left at the bottom, and I have a mouse as well. So yeah, pretty solid machine, still works, no problem, no complaints. So yeah, and then I'm gonna use a PS4 gamepad to play Wing Commander 2. And before I show more details here, let's see. So this is what I was talking about. The files are all copied, all 7 disks have worked, and now it's decompressing the files. And like I said, when I did this back in the day on my 386 S6 25 megahertz, I'm pretty sure it took like 50 to 60 minutes at the very least. Yesterday I tried it on my 486 DX2 66 megahertz, and I timed it. I think it took 23 minutes, so I didn't want to subject you to this, so I'm letting it run. That's why I chose the Wii C today. Because it's rated at 800 megahertz, so it's quite faster. It should take like 5 minutes tops. And it's kind of tricky because it says it's 800 megahertz when you buy the system module, but when you actually run benchmarks, it acts like a Pentium 233 megahertz, which I based upon like Doom benchmarks. But it might be faster in other contexts. It depends what it's doing, actually. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on in the background of that chip, of that CPU, but is there a virtual layer, something happening to interpret the x86 code? I don't know, but what I know is that it always works. It's pretty compatible all the time with everything I've thrown to it. So yeah, installation complete. So first step is to reboot the machine and go to BIOS. All right. So I've done a few tests yesterday, and like definitely the L1 and the L2 cache have to be disabled, but then you have a CPU speed divider. And you have to take into account that it's normally 800 megahertz. So the best sweet spot would be to reach something close to 33 megahertz. So if you divide 800 by 32, if I remember correctly, it's supposed to be 32 megahertz, which is close enough. But I did a few tests and I left the divider by at the one rating. I tried dividing by 2, by 16, by 32, and honestly, I didn't see any real difference between all of those choices. So it's mostly the L1 and L2 cache that have to be like taken care of. So let's do that. So as long as I don't power down and do a hard reset, it should keep the setting even if I like Control Alt Delete and do a soft reset. It should keep that setting active. All right. Yeah, so I'm gonna use a PS4 gamepad, so that's what this thing is about. It's a USB 4 VC. It's kind of ridiculous how many gear is involved today. But yeah, so PS4 gamepad connects to a Raspberry Pi inside here, and this like device takes care of modern input, transforms it with a protocol card, and sends it over to the vintage side. So my gamepad has some of the buttons mapped to a keyboard, a vintage keyboard, and some other like to a regular joystick, vintage joysticks. So this is what I decided on the configuration. I was trying to show that off. So yeah, it has a lot of more buttons than vintage joysticks. So why not leverage this piece of gear? Like firing, navigation, selecting guns, afterburners, autopilot, increase speed, pause, target, lock, roll. Yeah, so a lot of goodies here that I'm gonna use. Let's remove this, and I prepared the batch file. So in order to use Roland MT32 sound, I have to launch a program called Soft MPU. So basically, like most of the DOS games used dumb MIDI mode, like they were happy just receiving basically MIDI commands, which basic MIDI commands. But if you wanted to patch some instruments on the fly or do special effects, if I recall correctly, you need like the intelligent mode. So in order to do that, you need a special hardware card, which would not fit on a Wii C, of course. But there's a way to do it in software. So this is what's going to happen. So it launches soft MPU. It needs expanded memory, but that's all right because that's what the game needs. And then loading the game takes time even on this machine running at 800 megahertz. That's how intensely packed the data is. Oops. Such a cool game. Very atmospheric, and it came in an era where like the story from PC games. That's a good question. I can check right now. So yeah, good old mem. So I think the Wii C has 256 megabytes, but in my config sys, I think I only enabled like 65 or so megabytes, as you can see. So I have plenty of memory. So It's only an issue when some games complain that there's too much RAM and they think they don't have enough. Like too much is like too little. But yeah, some games are very fussy about that. But no problem here. So let's start over. Shouldn't take long. How's the sound? Is it loud enough? Alright, I'm gonna reduce the line-in volume and my mic. How's this? I think there's a 20-second lag before I get any feedback from my watchers. Gotta start the game. So yeah, I'm seeing the levels. My mic is in the yellows and the game is in the early greens, the low greens. Alright, so yeah, can control the mouse. Well, it acts like a joystick, the thumbstick. It's not actually the mouse. I have also a mouse plugged in, but it's very far on my desk. So let's start it and watch the intro. It's pretty long. I'm gonna mute myself for a bit. Oh noes. Speak of your plans, not of your toys. Check out that art, man. Those VGA gradients. And this is only in 320 by 200 pixels. Human pilot who has caused so much trouble, that must be me. Nope, not if I have anything to say about it. The Kelrathi are like Klingons. They both start with K, so it's a proof enough. They have stealth devices. So it kind of helps to have played the first game, but it's not necessary. I didn't back in the day. You can read about it in the manual. That's what it's for. Could have been the origin story for Space Quest, and you became a janitor on a space station. Look at those crazy graphics, man. So many names and places that I don't know anything about or forgot about. So yeah, this is the station where you're based. Yeah, Lands of Lore. I never played that, but Eye of the Beholder, I actually started the playthrough 2 years ago. Haven't finished that. And speaking of Eye of the Beholder 1. I got it in box a few years ago. IBM PC, right there. Small box, but it feels heavy because it has a ton of things in it, like you wouldn't believe. And I think I have a clue book as well. Like the people who sold me had a penchant for clue books and walkthroughs. Like the official bought one. But that's for another day. Alright, back to the game. So, yeah. Alright, let's go straight into the first mission. I think she's sarcastic. The ferrets. Should be at the start of this little guide. Yeah, it's the very first one here. This little fighter, which has no missiles. And it's at 10.2 meters. And if you need it in feet, well, just use Google. Yeah, the asteroids are pretty intense in this game. You can screw up your mission in an instant. These scenes are memorable. You know, it's just there to add some fluff and atmosphere. And... Alright, let's do this. Oops. I can roll with the right thumbstick. Like some commands need the keyboard, it sits pretty far away right now in my setup. I could like bring the keyboard closer, but I could risk shutting down my WC if I push the cable, the power cable wrong. So let's just swing it with this. Oh, enemies. Afterburner. Lower my speed. If I don't lower it, I'm gonna bump into my enemies. Wish I had missiles, but I don't. Down. Countermeasures, so I have to watch for the yellow dots and maneuver weirdly around them. My shields are... Ooh, my aft shields are bad. I might explode before... Ew. Dramatic music because I have a lot of damage. Oh, I just have one cannon left. The joys of playing in Ring of Life. Mission 1 goes top speed is pretty... Wow. Yay! My ship was saying to eject. Alright, so nav points. If you double tap it, you can see a kind of map, so I have to do some kind of diamond patrol. I think my top speed is supposed to be like 400, but it's capped at 250 because I'm damaged and I have no shields left, no armor left. There's no way I survive this. Alright, nav 2. Can jump to it. And now it's the asteroid field. You're supposed to shoot them if they come too close, but it's too hard to do fast enough. So you just have to hope for the best. Oh shit. Ugh. Alright. Yay. So I've cleared the nav point, so I have to go to nav 3. I could try to afterburner myself out of the field, but it's very risky. Usually I explode when I do this. You know what? YOLO. Oh! So lucky. Alright, I think I'm out of the field. We're gonna get you all shut up and battled, and then you gotta fly through the asteroid field. Yeah. And there's a second combat, so yeah, this is gonna be hard. Communicate. I'm gonna ask my wingman to do some of the heavy lifting for me because I will not survive this if I do it all alone. One fighter down, nice. Oh no, I have a missile to me. If the missile hits, I'm dead. I'm just moving around after burning out of the way, but my fuel is getting low. I have no radar left and the ship is telling me to eject. Yeah, not doing very well. Gonna fly like the old days of World War I. Nope. Alright, let's replay that. Just fly past them so they can't shoot me at worst. Playing chicken is pretty bad in these types of game. Not a winning strategy. Nope. One down. So this game, as if you weren't aware, is not really 3D. It uses like pre-rendered bitmaps at a lot of angles, different angles, and it's just displaying sprites. But you know what? That's what they needed back then. There were no 3D engines, true 3D engines back then. Well, there were, but not like today. Yay! Alright, I think she blew the 3 ships by herself. Oh! It was an afterburner into the field. Not a good. But hey, nav 2 and my shields are up, my armor's up. Going great. Alright, nav 2 is done. Let's go to the third nav point. Let's roll the ship. And when the auto lights are lit up, then it's time to hit hyperspace. Should go way better. Come on. Oh, that's my dog. Too fast. He's trying to get away. And someone's behind me. Did I even blow up any, like a single ship and destroy? I don't know. Yay! Well, there we go. My ship is damaged. Alright. Last nav point was empty. And here you have to be careful because you have to land, you have to communicate, and you can explode if you're not careful enough, if you go too fast. Request landing. Yeah, no. Try playing during a live stream, man. Yay! I took out one enemy ship. Usually I do almost all of them. it's all right. Doesn't really change much. You can get medals in this game, I think, pretty sure. Sometimes I get it mixed up with X-Wing, which was really, really cool. It came out a little after, like 2 years after, I think, if I recall correctly. And if you were like a sucker for medals and titles, military titles, those games, like, they scratched your itch big times. Check out the bullet holes in my ship. What happened out there, sir? Well, I'm doing a stream in 2023, so yeah, that's what's happening. I think I'm gonna end the stream like mission successful. I tried to avoid the pain of installing on a real vintage machine because it would have decompressed for like an hour, and I didn't want that. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining in the chat. For those who watched, I think I'm going to chop down this live into a more palatable video that just goes through the paces and overview, eye-level overview of what I've done today. So it was also to test out my rig, my streaming rig. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining, and I'll catch you later this summer with more ideas and stuff like this, and not necessarily only related to MS-DOS PC, but any computer that's in my collection that's not a black and white Macintosh. And don't worry if you're waiting for Macintosh content. I got you covered. So I'm going to like just show where to find me. Like, my main channel is 1-Bit Fever Dreams. You can just go to youtube.com/@1BitFeverDreams. It's pretty easy to remember. That's where you can find me in Mastodon, but it's @1bit @BitBang Social. On Twitter, it's a little harder. It's @JunoMical1, like so, because it didn't take accented letters, and I found out after the fact. If you want to support me, I set up a Ko-fi page a long time ago. I don't really do anything with it. I might activate it. I'm not really doing this for money at all. And I don't want to set up a Patreon, at least for now, because I cannot commit to making content at a very regular pace. So that's how I'll see it. So Ko-fi.com is kind of in between. That's perfect for my pacing. What else can I say? Well, have a good rest of day, and have a good weekend, everyone. So see you later. So mission successful. Oops. Let's see the last chat comments. Mission successful. Yeah, of course. Very cool. Thanks for the stream. Well, thanks for showing up, and thanks for interacting. See you guys later.